If you have pets but also love plants, then this video is for you. By the end of this video, you'll know 10 non-toxic houseplants that I guarantee you're going to want to have in your home. Good majority of the common houseplants that you're going to see for sale wherever you like to buy your plants are actually toxic. Not just for pets, but actually for humans as well. So if you have young children, then you're going to want to watch this too. And you know, I normally save the best for last in my videos, but with this one, I couldn't choose. I had two plants on my list that were both just so special, so eye-catching, that I could not choose which one to put last. So you are definitely going to want to make sure you watch until the end. First up, we have got the Calathea mosaica, which is also known as the network Calathea. It gets its name from the very unique pattern that it has on its leaves. It's got this grid-like pattern that looks like a network of intersecting lines crisscrossing the foliage. And I've never really seen any other plant with foliage like that, with a pattern on the leaves that looked like that. So for the plant collectors that have all the usual houseplants, this is one you're definitely going to want to add to your collection. These calatheas, well, all calatheas are fairly easy plants to keep alive, but if you haven't had a calathea before, there's one key thing you need to know about watering them. This family of plants are very sensitive to any minerals or any other kind of impurities that might be in tap water. So if you water them with tap water, it's going to slowly start to burn around the edge of the leaves. So if you've ever had trouble with a calathea, if you've had one before and that's kind of happened where the leaves around the edge start to look burned, this is most likely why. It's from using tap water. So with the network calathea or with any other calathea, you need to water them with distilled water or filtered water. As long as you do that, they're very easy. That's all you have to do, and they're just a really cool plant, and they're totally non-toxic, pet-friendly, kid-friendly, and you know, a very interesting look. So this is one you're definitely going to want to add to your collection. And yeah, so the network calathea, it's a great option for a smaller, pet-friendly houseplant that can thrive in pretty low-light areas, but it does only get about 2 feet tall. And they also can't take much direct sunlight. If they're getting, you know, especially any afternoon sunlight on them, the leaves will burn. So if you want a larger plant that you can put in any of your brightest windows anywhere in your home, you're gonna love this next one. Next, we are talking about the lady palm, which is another really great option if you're looking for a pet-friendly houseplant. And really, it's probably one of my favorite palms that can be grown inside. Maybe my favorite of all. I really like the look of these lady palms. While a lot of the palms, the common palms at least that can be grown indoors, have very thin, you know, really fragile leaves that can easily get damaged by low humidity or by overwatering, the leaves of the lady palm are much sturdier. The lady palm has these really thick, dark green leaves that they come off the stem one leaf at a time and kind of like splay out like a fan, which I really prefer the look of that to, like, say a Reka palm or a cat palm. I think they really have a very nice look. And so this geometrical structural growth pattern, it makes the lady palm really stand out amongst the different types of palms. They are also very hard to overwater since they need a lot more water, or they need at least a little bit more water than the rest of the common palms. I've also seen it written online that the lady palms need low light, but I've seen them do very well in bright windows. So I think that this is kind of a misconception about the lady palm. I think you can put them in your brightest window, and as long as you water them enough, I think they'll be just fine to go in any window, even a south-facing window, a west-facing window. And, you know, I think when people have burned them, it's because they let them get too dry. You know, if a plant is really dry and it's getting direct sunlight on it, it may burn. But if it's been properly watered, it's going to be just fine. So I think the lady palm is a great option for pet-friendly, larger, you know, a larger houseplant that can take some direct sun. So while the lady palm is a great plant for your bright windows, if you're looking for a non-toxic plant that you can put just anywhere in the house, I'll show you a great pet-friendly plant that can take very low light. All right, next up we have got the bird's nest fern, which is, it's not only one of the coolest looking ferns, but it's also one of the easiest to take care of. The bird's nest fern, they look so different from other popular ferns that a lot of people see them and don't even realize that they are a fern. I think often I see people ask what is this plant, and they don't realize that it's a fern. It's just a fern, but a very cool looking fern, and that's how unique it is. People don't even know. So they have these long, bright green leaves that come out from the center of the plant in a really nice circular pattern. And as the plant grows, the leaves can get pretty big and it starts to look very tropical and gets a really cool tropical kind of feel to wherever you have it. They're definitely the type of plant that you could totally imagine growing like in some dank, dark, tropical jungle somewhere. So that's something that that I look for in a house plant. It changes the feel of your house, makes it feel like you're in the Amazon jungle or something. But yeah, they are also very easy to take care of because I have found that they don't really require as much humidity as some other ferns. Higher humidity won't hurt them, but with some ferns, with like a Boston fern or even a staghorn fern, the high humidity is absolutely necessary. The plant will quickly start to fade if it's not in high humidity, but with the bird's nest fern, it's not as important. So they can do low light, low humidity, and it's a really good plant for kind of just throwing anywhere in your house. I have one that's not close to a window at all, and it's in a pretty dark spot, and it's been doing well for probably a couple years now. It's been growing and it's gotten very big. It's put out several rounds of leaves, and it's getting very big and it looks really awesome. So the bird's nest fern, it is a really nice tropical looking pet friendly houseplant with a really nice uniform shade of green. But if you want something that's going to add some more color to your house, stay tuned for this next plant. Alright, so if you have seen my video on the 20 best low light houseplants, then you may have seen the part where I talk about bromeliads, and you've seen me go on and on and on about how much I love bromeliads. So you already know they are one of my all-time favorite houseplants, and just favorite plants, not even favorite houseplants, favorite plants of all. They're so cool. But what I forgot to mention in that low light plants video is that they're also non-toxic. So they are a great plant to have if you have young children or if you have pets. And there are hundreds or probably even thousands of different types of bromeliads. And they all have really interesting and unique looking patterns and colors. And a lot of them even flower and have very strange looking flowers. So a lot of them are really kind of, out of this world, alien looking kind of plants. There's so much diversity within this family of plants that pretty much for any type of room, any, look that you have in a certain room, you will be able to find a bromeliad that looks good in that room and where the colors go with the color of that room. So it's one that really is a very versatile houseplant that can do low light, and that there's just so many different types. You'll find one that will look good for any room. So the bromeliads can handle fairly low light, and they can handle fairly bright light. So they can go pretty much anywhere. You just have to water them according to how much light they're in. In general, I think if they're in bright light, water them once a week. If they're in low light, water them once every 2 weeks. And I've also seen, some people who like to water their bromeliads by filling the cups on the side, where the leaves come out. They let the cups fill with water. And while naturally outside, this is how bromeliads would get water. You know, as it rains, they would fill with water. But I found that inside and air conditioning, the bromeliads really can't handle that. Especially if it's the middle of the summer and your air conditioning's blasting all the time, cold air, and there's water sitting inside of that bromeliad, it's going to cause the plant to rot. So I would really highly recommend that if you have the plants inside, don't let water sit in those cups on the sides. Just, you know, water it, water the soil just like any other normal plant. And I think, you know, just leave those cups dry and you're going to have more success. But bromeliads, one of the coolest plants of all, one of my favorite plants. I love them. So I could not recommend the bromeliad enough. And like I said, they can do low light, they can do bright light. They are non-toxic, they are pet friendly, they are kid friendly. So really you can't go wrong with bromeliads. They are a great choice when it comes to colorful, tropical looking, non-toxic plants. But if you're going for a different kind of look and you want a pet friendly cactus, I will show you that next. Next up, we've got the rickrack cactus, which is also known as the fishbone cactus, because it really does kind of look like a fishbone. Really, what I was thinking about it, and really what it looks like is a cartoon fishbone, because it really does look cartoonish the way the leaves kind of grow in that zigzag kind of way. But it's a good name for it. It's a cool plant. It's a cool look. And it is definitely a really weird looking plant, a weird looking cactus. But I think it's really cool, and it's one of my favorite cacti. In general, I don't really love cacti, or I say at least I don't keep a ton at my house. And that's because I'm scared of cactus spines. You know, let's be honest. That's really the truth here. Once you've gotten some cactus spines in your hands and your arms, you might be a little bit scared of them too. If you have a bunch of cactus, I think you know where I'm coming from with that. But fortunately, the rickrack cactus, it doesn't have many spines. It has little, I'd say little to no spines. Often they have none at all. Sometimes, especially as they start to get very big, they can develop some small spines, you know, either at kind of like the corner of the leaves or coming out of the new growth. But the spines are very small. They kind of grow infrequently and you can easily cut them off. So if you're just trimming back your plant from time to time, I don't think it's going to really be an issue. And they also generally come in hanging baskets. So they're definitely totally non-toxic. And if you're worried at all about the small little spines on them, just leave them in the hanging basket. Chances are if you buy one at a nursery or at any plant store or whatever, they're going to come in a hanging basket. And they look best in a hanging basket anyway. You know, the way they hang down and kind of cascade down, I think the hanging basket is the appropriate look for a rickrack cactus anyway. So just keep it out of reach if you are worried about the spines. There, you know, I wouldn't really worry about it, but if you keep it out of reach, then you don't need to worry about it regardless. So the other thing is, if you've ever had a problem with cactus, if you tend to maybe water your plants a little too often and you've had cactus before, this one actually grows in the jungle. It grows in the jungles of Mexico. So although it's a cactus, it can handle a little more water than most cactuses, than almost, you know, anything else when it comes to cacti. So they're a very easy plant to take care of. They can handle lower light and more water than most cactus because they generally grow like off of the branches of trees in the jungle. So they're very easy to take care of, and once they're big enough, they can also bloom, and they have a really beautiful white flower that's also very fragrant. So I'll put some pictures up here of the flowers, but they are really like spectacular flowers. So it's not just a cool cacti with really cool looking shape to it, but beautiful, beautiful fragrant flowers. So this is a pet-friendly, non-toxic plant that you are for sure gonna wanna get. All right, so the rickrack cactus, while they're an awesome non-toxic plant that you can grow in hanging baskets, if you're looking for something to put on the floor that can get pretty big, I'll show you that next. The ponytail palm. So the ponytail palm is another houseplant that I would put in that category, that high, coveted category of all-time classic houseplants. All right, because it really is a classic. It's been used for years. It's super easy, and it's one of the best houseplants of all. It's not only really easy to care for, looks very interesting and very unique, but it's also totally non-toxic and pet friendly. Ponytail palm grows a large round base at the bottom with a woody trunk growing up out of that. At the top, the leaves will come out in this full kind of circular growth pattern, arching up and then hanging down, looking just like a ponytail. The big bulb at the base, it makes it so that the plants can store water for long periods of time. So it really can go quite a while in between waterings, and I wouldn't bother to water it more than once every 2 weeks, but once a month would be just fine. Just do make sure that it is right in a window though. It doesn't necessarily need direct light to survive. It can do bright indirect, but the more direct light you can get it into, the better, and the quicker it will grow. In bright light, they will grow fairly quickly, and they can easily get 6 or 7 feet tall inside. Ponytail palms can even take some direct sunlight outside, so a trick, if you want to speed up the growth of your ponytail palm and get it to be that 6-7 foot tall kind of height as soon as possible, a trick to do that is to stick it outside every summer, and it will grow very quickly out in the sun. You can give it even pretty full all day sunlight. Just make sure that you give it a little time to acclimate to the direct sunlight outside, because it can burn if you have it inside in some indirect light, and then you put it outside where it's in full sun, all day sun, it will burn. Then the new leaves will adjust, and as it grows throughout the summer, it will stop burning. So it's not a big deal if that does happen, but you can prevent it from burning at all if you just slowly acclimate it. So, just put it into somewhere where it just gets sun for half the day. After a couple weeks, put it into the full sun, and it should be just fine. So ponytail palm, another, like I said, all-time classic houseplant. One of my favorites, super easy, super cool looking, and pet friendly, kid friendly, non-toxic. So the ponytail palm, it is really, it's one of the coolest houseplants of all, but even before it gets tall, it can still be quite wide. The leaves can grow pretty big and spread out wide. So even if you have one that's short, you're still gonna need a lot of room for it. If you want a good non-toxic plant that you can put on a table or a shelf or a countertop, somewhere where you don't have that much room, I've got a good one for you next. All right, if you're looking for a good pet-friendly plant that you can put on your kitchen table or on the kitchen counter, or on an end table, something like that, something where you need it to stay small, look no further than the peperomia. Peperomias are these little plants that don't get taller than 6 to 12 inches. They stay very small, and there's a bunch of different types with different color patterns on the leaves and different textures on the leaves. One of the coolest of them all is the watermelon peperomia, which has leaves that look like watermelons. Who would have thought? Who could have imagined the watermelon peperomia? But they, you'll see here, they really do look like little watermelons, and I really love them. They've become one of my favorite peperomias recently, and they're really cool looking. There are also a bunch of peperomia that are called the ripple peperomias, which have this very unique looking texture on the leaves, and they kind of have these rippled leaves, and they come in a bunch of different colors as well. So that is another great peperomia. Another popular one is the peperomia obtusifolia, which is an awesome choice when it comes to peperomia. They are very, very easy. I think the obtusifolia may be the easiest of all the peperomias. And there's even a variegated one that's very easy to take care of. You know, a lot of times the variegated version of a plant can be much harder to keep alive than the normal version. But I found with this one, there's really no difference. It's just as easy, and it's a really beautiful variegation. It really is nice. So all of these peperomias are very easy to take care of. Just water them once every 2 weeks, and they do like higher humidity. So if you can mist them down, you know, spray them down just once or twice a week, that will keep the humidity up. But if you have them around other plants, or if you have a humidifier in the room, that will work just fine too. So they're really beautiful and colorful plants that you can put pretty much anywhere, and you never have to worry about your pets messing with them, because like all of these plants, they're totally non-toxic and they're pet friendly. Next up, I'm going to show you what is, in my opinion, the best shower plant. So if you have a window in your shower, or just a window in your bathroom at all, and you want to put a plant there, I'll show you that right now. All right, now we are talking about the absolute best shower plant of all time, the staghorn fern. Staghorn ferns are one of these plants where the humidity is really a much more important factor than the watering schedule. Okay, so I have a staghorn fern in the window in my shower, and honestly, I barely even water it. I don't have it on any specific watering schedule. I just water it every once in a while when I think of it, and it's really thriving. It's really grown quite large, and it's doing really well. The reason that it's doing so well is because it's right in the shower, so it gets a ton of humidity on it, you know, at least once or twice a day. As long as the staghorn is getting really high humidity, it's going to do well. If you don't water it that carefully and it's not in high humidity, it's not going to do well. The humidity is the most important factor when it comes to staghorn ferns. And a lot of people also like to hang staghorn ferns, or they'll mount them onto flat pieces of wood and then like put that on the wall, which does look really cool, but it's definitely a little bit harder to take care of them if they're hanging, because any hanging plant is just going to dry out more quickly. So if you have them hanging, you just need to mist them down constantly. It's still very possible to do, but if you have them in the shower, the humidity is taken care of. So it's very, very simple. You can also keep them just in the window in a normal pot, just, in any room of the house, as long as they're in the window. But you do need to make sure that you mist them down often. Not as often as if they're hanging, but still you want to do it, 2 or 3 times a week. And if you have it like that, where it's not in the shower, you need to make sure you're letting the soil dry out in between waterings. So that's the key. You need to keep the leaves damp and keep them humid and wet, but still let the soil dry out in between waterings regularly, like any other houseplant. So if you can get that down, you can grow them anywhere. But in the shower, it's gonna be just the easiest spot. So they are a really awesome houseplant that are perfect for growing in the bathroom, and they're gonna make you feel like you're in some sort of prehistoric jungle every time you take a shower. So I couldn't recommend them enough. All right, so I've promised that I have 2 super special non-toxic houseplants that I've saved for the end, and now it's time to deliver on that promise. And don't you worry, I've got something good for you, and I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, so we have got one of the best families of plants of all time, the orchids. A lot of people don't realize just how many types of orchids there really are. There's that one type that you see at the grocery store all the time. You'll see them in grocery stores, or just when you see an orchid, there's one specific type that you really think of, but that's just one type of literally thousands of different types of orchids. That one really popular one is called Phalaenopsis. And while they are definitely really nice plants, and there's nothing wrong with having the Phalaenopsis, I have some and I like those ones a lot, but they're just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to orchids. There are so many different types of orchids. There are cattleyas, which come from South America and have all sorts of different large and very fragrant flowers. There are the brassivolas, which are native to Brazil and have these very elegant and fragile looking white heart-shaped flowers. So those are a really nice one. There is even a tremendous vining orchid called the vanilla orchid. And yes, this is the actual vanilla plant, the vanilla bean plant. Most people don't know that vanilla comes from an orchid, but it does. So if you want a really super unique flowering orchid that is going to grow you some fresh vanilla beans, you're going to need that vanilla orchid. I have a huge one inside, and it's probably one of my favorite plants of all. There are also tons of different man-made hybrids that are crosses between all these different types of orchids. So if you choose to go down this rabbit hole of collecting orchids, it can be literally a lifelong pursuit, because you're going to always find new types that you haven't seen before, and they're always, making new types. I think there's also a misconception with orchids that they're hard to take care of, which is really not true at all. Orchids get acclimated to the changing hours of sunlight throughout the seasons, and this is what causes them to bloom. So the key with an orchid is to just put them right in a window and then just leave it in that same spot and never move it. Just put it in a window where it's getting some light and just leave it there forever. It will adjust to the light as the seasons change, and that's what's going to trigger it to rebloom and to flower, which will usually happen twice a year. So just leave it in one spot, just leave it be, water them once a week. Don't let them sit in water, and they'll be very easy, and they'll be blooming for you for years to come. So now we have made it to the end, the very end, number 10. And if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it, and I thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video and to watch any of my other videos. I love you guys. I thank you so much. If you haven't, make sure to please like and please subscribe to the page, because I've got some awesome new videos coming for you soon. I've got several planned for the next few weeks, so please subscribe, and you're going to see some awesome stuff coming soon. And all right, here it is. The most special, unique, non-toxic houseplant of them all. I guarantee this is not going to look like any of your other plants, and it is one that no plant collection will be complete without. Here we go. All right, guys, we've made it to the end of the list. The Venus flytrap. I'm sure we all are familiar with the Venus flytrap. We've seen it in TV shows and movies, whatever. But I think a lot of people don't realize that they're easy to grow inside, that they are totally pet friendly and non-toxic, and, they are what they say they are. Venus flytrap. They're going to catch flies. They're going to catch gnats. They're going to, naturally help you get rid of bugs. So a lot of people inside get those fungus gnats, those little gnats that you're going to see flying around your plants, and especially when the soil's wet. And a lot of people ask me how you can get rid of the fungus gnats, because especially in certain times of the year, in like the spring especially, they can get really bad and be really annoying. And I think there's no better way to deal with them than just putting a couple of Venus flytraps around amongst your plants. I mean, what more natural way to get rid of bugs than a Venus flytrap? And they are really, really cool. Really cool looking, really cool, really what am I saying here? Really easy to grow indoors, really cool looking, and a natural way to get rid of flies and gnats. And I don't think they're gonna really eat anything bigger than a fly, but at least those little pests that you're gonna have on houseplants, the Venus flytrap is gonna eat them right up. So I think they're awesome. Venus flytraps, they grow in bogs and swamps in North and South Carolina. And so to grow them indoors, you basically want to replicate those conditions as closely as you can. So they like to stay wet, and they don't like to have any nutrients or minerals in the soil. They get all the nutrients they need from the little bugs and little flies that they eat. So the best way to grow them is to plant them in sphagnum moss or peat moss or a mix of moss and perlite. And you basically just keep them sitting in water. You know, you're really replicating that boggy, swamp-like conditions. And you want to make sure you use distilled or filtered water. Or even better, just use rainwater. That's what I've always done. And, you know, I think it's good to get in the habit of collecting your rainwater as much as possible anyways. So if getting a Venus flytrap, you know, inspires you to get some sort of rainwater catch, then, you know, it's really killing two birds with one stone. So it's awesome. And, you know, actually, when I think about it, it's actually killing three birds with one stone, because you're collecting your rainwater, you're finding a natural way to get rid of bugs in your house, and you have an awesome plant to look at and to have in your house. So, you know, what is better than that? Three things in one, all right? So as the plant grows, the traps, or the, you know, the things at the end of the leaves, the traps that are gonna catch the bugs, they're gonna naturally die back. They'll turn black, and they'll continuously die back and then just sprout new ones. So as it's growing, don't be alarmed, you know, as the leaves and those traps at the end start to turn black and fall off. That's how they grow, and new ones will grow back soon. They also can sometimes go completely dormant in the winter. So it's possible that the whole thing will pretty much turn black and die back to, you know, it looks just like an empty pot. It's just the moss. But they're not dead. The roots are still alive. As soon as it gets warm and as soon as they get a little bit more sunlight on them, they're going to sprout back and grow back in the spring. So don't worry if they're turning black or if they go dormant. That is all normal. And, you know, I think if you keep the conditions right, that they may not go dormant in the winter at all. So the Venus flytrap. They are one of the coolest and definitely one of the weirdest looking plants that exist. And growing one, you know, it's honestly kind of surreal. Like you see them, everyone knows about the Venus flytrap and sees them in movies. Everyone knows what it is, but to actually see one in your house and see what it really looks like, and to see it, like, you know, closing on a fly and eating the fly, like it really is a very it's a very unique thing to see. It's a very unique experience to grow these plants and to just observe them. And, you know, like I've said, they're non-toxic to plants, so that's why I had to put them, non-toxic to pets, except flies. If you have a pet fly, you do not want to get a Venus flytrap. But other than that, they're non-toxic, they're pet friendly, and, you know, they're just so strange you can hardly believe they're real. So I think they're the #1 most awesome pet friendly houseplant. And if you want to have the most unique plant of them all, while not having to worry about your pets, worry about your kids, not have to worry about fungus gnats and flies getting all up on your plants, then you need to get a Venus flytrap right away. All right, so that is it, my people. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, I'm gonna be back soon. You know, I was in Peru for a few weeks, so I didn't have up a video for a few weeks, but I've got a bunch more planned, and I'm gonna be coming back soon. So please like and subscribe to this one, and I'll be back soon with some awesome new videos. Thank you guys very much. Love you guys.